Welcome to Wallbreakers, a podcast by emerging creatives for emerging creatives, presented by the Digi60 Filmmakers Festival. I'm your host, Bernice Romero De Gracia, a scriptwriting graduate from Algonquin College and an emerging content creator. From one emerging creative to another, the biggest creative block is breaking into a competitive industry. How can we break down those walls and root a stable foundation for our passion? Here at Wallbreakers, we sit down with Canadian artists to chat about the challenges they face in establishing a creative career and advice they have for those who have yet to embark on this journey. In the second episode, I chat with Fitch Jean and Weggon Allen, executives of Ottawa-based film production company Lenz Films. Fitch Jean is a filmmaker, director, and producer, and Weggon Allen is an executive producer and entrepreneur. With Lenz Films, both Fitch and Weggon dedicate their careers to storytelling in the Ottawa filmmaking scene. In this episode, I chat with them about what it takes for young emerging creatives to begin their creative odyssey. Good morning, guys. Hi, Fitch and Weggon. Thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I super appreciate your willingness to have a conversation with me.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, of course. I wanted to start with asking you guys, when you started as an emerging creative or as an emerging filmmaker, what were you most scared about getting into the industry?
I think for me, I can kind of bring it back to even before I got into the industry. When I was just passionate about film and about storytelling, I think that what was scaring me is that I didn't really see myself in the industry because I didn't see people that looked like me that were doing what I wanted to do. And so part of me felt like maybe that's not a field or an industry that I was meant to be in, because I'm like, wow, if I don't see people like me at the levels that I want to be in, then maybe I'm not able to reach that level. And so I think there was a fear, that I wouldn't be able to get to that point, right? And obviously there are, very, very talented filmmakers that are Black that have done amazing things in the industry, right? Some of my favorite ones are Barry Jenkins, Spike Lee, Steve McQueen, and there's also Ava DuVernay, right? But I felt like the representation, was still lacking, and for me, it took me even time to even discover some of those people. So at the time, I think one of my biggest fear was just my fear was to get into this industry and feel like I wouldn't be able to accomplish what I would want to accomplish because I didn't see people like me that were at those levels.
Yeah.
I think for me, I didn't have any fear because I got into this industry by accident. How I got into it, it's coming back to the story of meeting Fitch in 2018, I believe. Actually, before that.
No, we met in 2016.
Yeah, so Fitch was a photographer at the studio that I was managing at the time. And, he used to come around and take photos, but he had his friends that used to do these little skits, and I was watching him and watching his talent. And then one day he approached me with a DSLR, and he showed me a short film that he did. And, he will always say that was the worst piece of artistry that he did. But I saw the potential, and I was like, okay, maybe this guy has some potential. But I at that time, I wanted to get into video production, but I didn't have the right folks around me. So when Fitch showed me this film that he did, I was like, okay, that's cool. And then when he approached me in 2019 and said, hey, can you be an investor in my first short film, I did, and I produced it with him with a few other friends. And I think just being on set, I was like, this is our path. We're into making films now.
Yeah.
We at that time we had no knowledge on what we were doing. We were just putting all the pieces together. And, for myself is because I've been an entrepreneur for many years, I just wanted to know what they want for resources. And I went out and I get those resources for them so they can be better at their craft.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned Spike Lee earlier, Fitch. Yeah, I watched She's Gotta Have It also during the Christmas holiday, and very first time that I saw it, I feel like there's some controversies sometimes like with the film and how it represents like feminism and everything, but I definitely think like it's definitely worth watching when you want to get into film. But yeah, I mean, other than that, like I can definitely understand too just the struggles of like wanting to get into such a competitive industry and everything, and like worrying about how you're going to stand or how you're going to stand out rather, and just but at the same time, you know, like just pushing past that fear, because it's that passion that's driving you to get into something that you love, and if it's something that you want to do like for the rest of your life. Because I personally like I have been interested in script writing for a while, but it was only this year when I first got into the script writing program at Algonquin College. It's just like that's when I really realized that I want to continue writing scripts. I want to continue writing stories and telling stories in my own style, and that's what really like pushed me to. But as an emerging creative, like there's still fears that you're going to face, especially when you're still like finding like your identity as a creative, and you don't like there. I guess there's like so many things that you would want to do. I personally like gravitate towards so many like genres and so many themes, but sometimes like I feel that pressure of like having to pinpoint like what is it that I want people to know me for.
Your style.
Yeah.
I think that's something that I struggle with right now, because when I look at a lot of the filmmakers that I look up to, they have a very distinct style or a very different way of telling stories. You look at Tarantino, you know a Tarantino movie when you see one.
Definitely.
You know, Nolan, even Denis, Scorsese, Spike. You know that you're in their world when you see it. But what I've realized for myself is that I feel like there's so many different worlds and so many different styles that I want to explore, and I wonder if that is something that will be detrimental to my filmmaking career, because like I don't know if I've found that style yet, or I don't know if I have a style. I kind of approach my films in a way where like each singular film is its own world, and then when I'm done with it, then I go into another film, but I don't try to carry a certain style from film to films. But maybe I just haven't found it yet. But I think part of me is kind of scared. I'm like every time I watch a filmmaker, I can see the patterns or I can see the style in it. But I feel like I don't have that yet, or I might not ever have it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah. Any thoughts on that, Weggon?
No. Again, my role as a filmmaker is providing the resources for my team that they would need. When you look at the business side of it, that's what I focus on.
Yeah.
I'm not the creator in terms of writing, or I'm more of the producer in providing resources that they will need to be good at their craft.
Yeah, because I mean, at the end of the day, like it is a passion, but at the same time, you have to remember that what you're getting into is a business.
Yeah.
Show business.
Yeah.
And you know what? I would say, we've been in the industry for almost 5 years now. And it's only, I think, I would say about 6 to 7 months ago, it's where we really start to understand the business of filmmaking.
Yeah.
We're just making films. Right, but then when you come to a ceiling and you're like, okay, what do we do now? You got to understand about distribution. You got to understand about so many other aspects of filmmaking, and you're like, this is why it's so important for us to be in certain rooms and finding out information, because we didn't know a lot of things that we knew about 6 months ago, and then that changed our trajectory in terms of the direction we were going, in terms of the business side of filmmaking.
How would you find that balance between remembering that this is a passion and that this is something that you want to have fun with, that's why you started in the first place, but also remembering that the business side of things and that you need to figure out all the logistics of everything?
It's an intricate balance, and I would say it's different for everyone, right? Because like each person has a specific goal they want to attain when it comes to their film journey. And I think that it's all based on your goals, right? At the end of the day, you don't want to be a starving artist, right?
Yeah.
So you can't just do every single thing for the art. Unfortunately, it is a business. Not unfortunately, fortunately as well. It is a business, and you need to understand that, as any business, it caters to a market, to an audience, and you need to be able to make art that an audience can enjoy, so that you're able to make the next project.
Yeah.
Right. And having that balance between creating something that is both personal and beautiful, and something that you feel resonate with you, and also something that an audience can enjoy, is where, as a filmmaker, you'll be able to create work that'll be both commercially viable and also something that you will be proud of. And I think that a lot of time creatives get into this thing where, like, it's like, yeah, it's my art, but it is, but also, that art, especially in film, takes a lot of money to get made, right? And that money is not your money, right? And so you need to have that balance at the same time. Some people will decide to, just work as a crew and some productions, so they can make money and then work on their own projects on the side. Some people will say, you know what, I'll do one for me, one for them. It's that balance of, like, I'll create a project that I want to do for myself, and then I also, as a writer, for example, right, you will a lot of time be a writer for hire, and some projects you might not be passionate about, but you know that it pays the bills, so you'll write this Christmas movie for them, and then you'll go back and write that beautiful piece that you want to write for yourself. And I think that whatever that balance is for you, you have to find it for yourself, depending on what the goal is for yourself.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty too of, like, especially nowadays, there's so much more freedom rather to choose to both do the commercial side of, like, of a creative career, but at the same time, like, you can also choose to be or do independent projects. Like, but again, that also depends on the means that you have and the money, especially when you're, like, starting out. In this kind
it
of
really
career.
comes down to the capital,
Yeah.
having the fund there, having the resources, and again, Canada have great resources for emerging filmmakers, but when you don't receive that resource, what happens, right? And that's where you realize, okay, I'm stuck. I have to do something else, or I have to pursue a different path. And it comes sooner than later. After a while, you realize, okay, I have to, like, look at the business side of it and understand that and what that is, and then trying to figure out, okay, what's the next path forward.
Yeah, and considering all of that, like, what were your personal challenges too, and when you started, like, in this career? Is there anything that, like, you remember that sticks out to you, especially when it comes to coming into it with that passion, but then realizing along the way that there are other aspects that you need to consider, and it's not purely just art or a passion?
There's a couple of things. I think for me, there's, like, first of all, the fact that, like, you're never going to be good right off the gate, like not everybody is like Orson Welles, like you need to be able to understand that it's a learning curve, and it'll take the time that it'll take, right? And that you need to be in love with learning and trying to get better. You need to be able to respond to criticism, let people that have done it talk to you about their journey, and not to say that you have to take the same path, but that you have something that you can learn from everybody. Be very, very humble about what you're doing and the craft, because there's so much to learn. I'm learning every day, right? And I realize that, like, wow, I'm still so far from where I even need to be. Like, sometimes, like, it's funny because sometimes I go to the theater and I watch a really, really good movie with people, and then at the end of the movie, I look a little angry, and people always ask me, like, why am I so angry? And it's because I'm like, this is such a good movie. It just tells me that I have so much more work to do for myself to get there. And I'm like, wow, like, I'm just in awe of the filmmaking.
Yeah.
But some of the other things that I've also learned is that, again, right, if you want to be able to make a long-lasting career, you need to be able to be very good at packaging your projects in a way that is both commercially viable but also work for you, right? Because at the end of the day, you need to get your films made, and to get your films made, people have to sign checks and believe that your film will make money, and that's at the end of the day, that's just how the industry works.
Yeah.
you just have to find a way to put those themes, that you want for your projects, and something that can be packaged to an audience and they can digest it, because you can make art, like fully art, that's funded by the government or whatnot. But like Weggon said, there's a lot of people that are trying to go that route as well.
Yeah.
And, it's very, very selective, and it's very, very competitive. And when you don't get it, then it's like, oh, what do I do now? So I think that creating avenues for yourself in which you can still create your art and not compromise on what is important, but still be able to have it made and have it seen. Because at the end of the day, for me at least, the most important thing is for my stories, the stories that I tell, to be seen and to be, experienced by as many people as possible. And for that to happen, they have to get made, right? So
yeah. From my aspect, being an entrepreneur in different industry, I'm a very resourceful person, and when I sit down with my team, I always try to figure out, okay, what is it you guys need to get to that next step? And when they tell me, then my focus is, how do I get this to them? How do I get this for them? Right? I focus on whether raising capital or whether getting the proper assets we will need. Those are the things that I focus on, is solution, and that's what my team need me for, because in my mind, everything is possible, right? And that's how I approach everything when it comes to what we do.
Yeah, you have to be your own biggest fan.
Yes.
And that's easier.
Yes.
That's so much easier said than done.
Yeah.
But when you believe in yourself the most, and everybody else is going to feed off of that energy too. And I think there's power too in realizing, especially when you're first starting in a career like this, that yes, you're entering a business, but you yourself are your own brand and are your own business. And it takes time to be able to hone that and refine that. But, it's at the same time, it's a work in progress. And I personally believe that everyone is a continuous work in progress. There's always work that needs to be done. And there's always new things that you're going to discover about yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, and about the industry.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
You mentioned, Weggon, earlier that there's a lot of resources for creatives here, like in Ottawa, because as an international student, coming to Ottawa, I wasn't that familiar with the creative community, especially, I guess, as someone who first moves to a country like Canada. We're always thinking of the bigger cities, like Toronto or Vancouver. So what, I guess, how would you describe what the creative community in Ottawa here is like?
Well, the resources is especially Dart. That's how we started, right? When we didn't had the cameras that we had, we became members here, and we had access to the facility, access to the cameras, and then we started that way until we built out the things that we needed. But yeah, there is a lot of great resources, and again, you have to be involved in the community to know what those are, right? And show up and network. Networking is very important. There's a lot of events that are going on that if you show up and you meet people, every time you meet someone brings you closer to your goal.
Yeah.
This is why it's so important to get out. Because a lot of people saying there's no resource. Well, there's no resource if you don't get out, right? Sure. And Dart is a great resource. Starting from there, and then as you get into the community, you meet other people that can lead you in the direction that funding resource. You could talk about the funding that we've gotten to do all of our short films and our feature film. But then this year we applied and we didn't get funding. What do we do now, right? And this is why, for me as a business owner, I told my team the path that we were going is unsustainable because I feel like we're playing a lottery. You never know when you're going to get it, right? So this is why we have to create a different path for ourselves and figure out what that is and then move forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Any thoughts on that, Fitch?
Yeah, like you said, there's a lot of resources and it's just about showing up, right? If you don't show up, then you don't know. So that means going to the networking sessions, going to the career fairs, meeting Going to the festivals like DG60, like the IFFO, and just meeting people that, like he said, will bring you closer to your goals. There's newsletters that you can, subscribe yourself to when it comes to stuff like grants, like he was talking about, the City of Ottawa, the Ottawa Art Council, the Canadian Art Council, the Ontario Council for the Arts, Telefilm. All these resources are there, but obviously it's not that it's hidden. It's just that, like, as you go further into it, then you'll find those, and you'll find people that will bring you closer to your goal. And so, it's really about the networking, like, especially in this industry, especially in Ottawa. It is a very close knit community, right? And so everybody knows everybody. So once you start meeting one person, and you meet this other person, and then just
I guess networking is also a really it's one of the most important things too when you're in a career like this. And for some people, it comes easier, and for other people, it's really hard trying to break out of that shell. Like, I personally am also still like working towards like really putting myself out there and everything. So, what are your tips or advice for breaking out of that? Like,
oh, trust me, it's hard for me. Like, he can tell you, like sometimes I'm in some rooms and I'm just sitting down and I'm on my phone. Like, it's hard, but you have to do it. And as like uncomfortable as it can be, just think about the fact that it's probably hard for other people too. And that like a lot of people are also not that great at it, but they're showing up. And so once you kind of like make it like tell yourself that like it's okay to talk to these people and it's fine, and also don't have the imposter syndrome. I think that's one of the things too that I've had, where like I'm in some rooms and I'm like, wow, like I feel like I'm not even supposed to be here. There's like people that have done so many more things than I have, and then I'm like, maybe I shouldn't, So that's also one of the things that you have to get away, from your mind. And then the next thing is that you kind of have to see networking as just conversations, just talking to people. I think that a lot of the time people feel like networking is like a pitch, that every person you go to talk to, you're like, oh, I got to pitch them myself. They have to be interested in me. And then you start, like being scared. But if you see it as just having conversation with people and just connecting with people in a way that's just very casual and, that doesn't have any strings attached to it, then you realize that it's actually not that hard. You're just talking to another person, and then that's it. I think once you add all these other things, all these agendas that you have that you're trying to accomplish, that's when things kind of get more tricky. But when you break it down to its core, it's just conversations.
I agree.
That's right. I laugh because him and I talk about it many times when I tell him, listen, you gotta be more vocal. And he would always say to me, no, you're good at it. That's something you're good at. And I'm like, I had to be good at it because when I first started my business, I didn't, I didn't have the resources to do marketing, so I would have to go out there and network with individuals. And they would be myself as the only colored person in that room. And, I would be like, okay, but I have to do it. And I got more comfortable. And now I just go in any room and, again, like he said, it's conversation. It's no one is there to bite you. Everyone is there to give you information. And if you connect with that person and not come from a sales approach, people are willing to give you that information because they know how hard it is starting out. So everyone is friendly, and it's a great. So you got to get over those fears. And just approach it like just regular conversation with anyone.
I've never really thought of it that way, like, before, in terms of the fact that most, or if not most people, then many people, like, feel the same way about networking and reaching out to people. Like, if you're scared to reach out to a person, that other person is most likely also scared to reach out to you. And it applies for many people. And just, now that the more that I think about it, the more that it really does, like, make sense. And you just have to find that courage to put yourself out there.
Absolutely.
And so, especially like with such a close-knit community like Ottawa, like I feel like with, like, I like to say, like, and I think other, like, when I have conversations with other friends about Ottawa, like, we always kind of like say that Ottawa is a big city, but it's a small city at the same time. And just because of that, like, that kind of like intimacy that the city is developed, especially like within the creative community, because just within this first year of me being in the city alone, I've met so many people, so many creative, talented people that have so much passion about what they do, and it's very inspiring to see that and to see the community here just keeps on growing. So how would you say that, how would you like think that the creative community here in Ottawa has grown since you first started?
I feel like it's grown tremendously. So when I started, I used to be a photographer. Started about in 2014, and at the time it was still pretty small. I used to remember there was some gatherings that used to happen where you would meet other people, but like it was the same, like few groups of people. And then when I got into the film industry, it was kind of the same thing. But as I've been going, forward, I realized that like it's growing. There's more and more people joining the community, every year. Like when we went to the career fair last month, there was like 300-400 people.
I think it capped at 500, and
You
last
know?
year was 700.
So it's like there's an appetite for this industry, and people want to be part of it. And I feel like Ottawa is a place that is that has the capacity for a lot of growth. And so I feel like in the next years, it's even going to get bigger and bigger. So I'm also excited about that, and this is one of the reasons why I'm here and I'm not in Toronto, because I feel like there's a lot of good things coming to Ottawa, and so I'm here for it.
Yeah, and for myself, being a music artist, I've been in this city for, I would say, 36 years this month. I see a major growth, right? But also there is still room for improvement. But yeah, even I would say like last year, I think Fitch and I, we, especially when it comes to the movie industry, we felt that there was a lot more going on in Toronto.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more welcoming space. There was a lot more people of color that we see. And we were like, maybe you need to just go to Toronto, because of how we felt. And then someone in Toronto says, hey, Weggon, you guys are a small fish coming in a big pond. Why don't you guys be a big fish in a small pond and just take what Toronto's doing and bring it to Ottawa? And then I was like, that makes sense, because the thing is that a lot of folks, and I know a lot of artists too, have left Ottawa and say that there's nothing here. They either go to Toronto, and then next thing you know, they're in New York or they're in LA, right? But if everyone keeps leaving, how can we build the industry?
Exactly.
Right? So we need to have community individuals who say, you know what, we can be, and those folks focus on and developing the industry, because there's a lot of room for opportunities, and I see the gap, and I want to be one of those individuals who on the forefront of that.
Yeah. When you're an emerging creative, like, especially like you're given so much advice to aspire to dream big and to reach out to as big of an audience like as possible. But I guess I'm also curious to know like how you're able to identify like a specific like target audience, especially when you're reaching out to like an audience here in Ottawa, especially like how can you hone your skills for identifying what your target audience is like with your work?
I would say, I always go back to myself as an artist. There was only 3 access point to an audience when I was growing up. It was radio, TV, and newspapers. Now for the emerging artists, now they have social media. There's millions of people, right? So to be honest, you just have to get up and just put your best foot forward and create your craft, and then you're gonna build your community from people seeing you consistently putting out work, and then you build your audience. Because before you have to go all over for audience, but the audience is there. It's there, on social media, so you can stay in your city and captivate your audience from even in your bedroom.
Yeah.
Right. So for me, I think for the artists that are coming up now, there's no excuses anymore, because you have so much that we didn't have, 30 years ago.
Yeah, exactly as he said, right? Like being in this, digital age that we're in right now, the world is literally at your fingertip.
Yeah.
Right? You can have an audience that's based anywhere. You can have an audience that's based here, that has base in the US, that has base in Asia and Africa. Like it's such a great time to be in, because like he said, you can be in a small little city with nobody and be able to reach millions of people. And so because of that, like where you are, like geographically, almost doesn't matter anymore, right? As long as you're able to use this power that's available to you, and you will find your audience, because there's so many people out there, and I think that once you understand that power and you're able to use it, then you'll find that, like, yeah, you can work and create out of anywhere.
There's so much talent in this city, but I think, especially when I first came to Ottawa, like I and a lot of other like international students that I've spoken to mostly know Ottawa for more of its like administrative government work. But the more that you dig and the more that you find, you'll realize that there's so much potential. And it's inspiring to see how many people are just putting themselves out there and like being brave with their creative identity. And it's just really, really cool to see how that keeps on growing. And I can't wait to see like what it'll be like in the next couple of years as I continue.
And again, there's opportunities for those who see that there's a gap.
Yeah.
And say, how can I fill it? How can I be that person that can, bring the community together? Or how can I do these events that will bring all different creators together? There is so many opportunities, and people just have to be proactive.
Mm-hmm. I also wanted to ask you, what advice, like, do you wish you knew back then that you know now, considering everything that we've like talked about?
There's a lot of advice. I would say for me is that one is that there is no like one size fit all in terms of the path, right? Like a lot of times, what you tend to do is look at a filmmaker or look at a producer or a writer and be like, okay, well, they got there and they did this. So let me just do that. But that's not how it works, right? Like no path is linear, it's all like this, all roads lead to Rome. And I think that the thing you have to understand is that your path is not like, because you're doing this, it doesn't mean that your path is not going to end up there, is not going to lead to this. I think that you have to enjoy the process and enjoy the journey, If you don't, might as well just quit right now because like it is a process, it is a journey, and you need to enjoy each step of it and each part of it to get to your goal, because there's going to be some changes, there's going to be a pandemic, there's going to be streamers that come in and like now you have to pivot, so you need to be able to understand that like there's no one way to do it, and that you just have to trust yourself and trust the vision and trust, the goal that you have, and, adapt to the environment around you, right? Yeah, because if you don't evolve, you disappear.
Yeah, I would second that. There's no such thing as overnight success, right?
Yeah.
So, and you just have to like be consistent in your vision, right? And don't let anyone sway you. And as long as you keep looking at the goalposts, is that's where I have to go. Some days you're gonna have to give some elbows, kick someone.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna have to like stiff hand someone. Those are the things you have to do. And also, as he mentioned, pivot, right? Because again, no one saw COVID coming. No one saw the strike coming, right? Those affected a lot of people's lives, right? It affected our lives. But we had to pivot, and we had to just stay strong and say, okay, you know what? We still have to focus on our goals and our objectives, and just wake up every day and put our best foot forward.
Yeah. There's always going to be challenges that you're going to face, like whether you're at the peak of your career or you're down in the dumps, right?
Yeah.
So like you have to realize that growth is nonlinear too, and that everybody's journey is different, because for people who want to be in a career like this, like it's never going to be just a straight line. You're always going to have to be flexible with the things that you do, and realizing that just because someone who is the same age as you or a similar age as you has gotten so much like farther in their career doesn't mean that you're not going to get at that point at some point too, and that everybody's like timeline is different, and that's something that I need to remind myself of constantly too. Yeah. So it's really interesting and inspiring to hear all of your thoughts on that. So bouncing off from that, The last question that I wanted to ask you guys is, let's say like I disappeared from this chair right now and I'm replaced with the younger versions of yourself when you first started. What would you tell them? What would you want to tell them? Or how would you reassure them that things are going to be okay? Things are going to work out?
I mean, I hope they work out. But honestly, like I would tell them that, hey, like you have your place in the industry. You know, the stories you want to tell are valid, and that it'll take time, but things are going to start turning. You just have to be patient and you have to trust the vision and also listen to people. People that know more than you, know better, that have had more experience than you, and surround yourself with people that have a very similar vision. They don't have to also want to be a director, but they need to have their purpose and their vision and their drive have to be the same as you.
Yeah.
Because when you're able to connect with your crew, your tribe, that are gonna go the extra mile with you, those people will elevate you and you will elevate them, and like they say, right, you can go fast alone, but you go farther together, and that's just the way it is, right? And so if you're able to find those people that will help you and you will help them, the journey will also feel lighter, because you're able to kind of like, whenever you're down, they can cheer you up whenever they're down, and then you just go further and you create better art. You create amazing art when you have people that are working with you that have that vision and that are able to take that into their craftsmanship, and then you just elevate the work tenfold. So, yeah.
He couldn't say it any better, But what I would add to that is, finding a mentor. Finding someone who was, did that journey that can help you navigate some of those pitfalls or barriers that you will face. That is so important, even for myself as a business owner. That was one of the things that I wish that I had, someone who can guide me along. That's very important.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You are who you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
And it's important to have people who have the same drive and the same mental or headspace as you, because it's not just a solo effort. It's definitely it's a joint effort.
It takes a village.
Yeah, you have to, especially like with this industry, you have to know how to work with other people and work in a team. Yeah, you have to.
Yeah, like there's no way you're gonna accomplish anything in this industry if you don't work with people. So like it's just it's the most collaborative industry that I know. Like nothing gets done if you're not willing to collaborate, listen, and work with people. So yeah,
and don't take anything personal. Make sure that because for our partnership, there's sometimes he wants to choke my neck, but I see great potential in the people around me, and I push them to get the best out of them because I see how hard we work to get to this position. And we want to keep going, but we also want to look back and bring other folks to have access to the resources that we accumulated or the knowledge that we have gained in the industry within the last 5 years.
Yeah, we can't be too possessive about our work. Yeah, like that's one of the most important things too that I've learned in my script writing program is that you can't hold on to that vision and hope that all of that is going to push through. Once the final project is finished, you have to be able to listen and be willing to listen to other people's ideas, because that's also how you can make your work better and you can make future works better.
Absolutely. If you're not ready to have your work torn apart, then you're not confident enough in your work, and that means that there's still a lot to be done. I think that as a filmmaker, as an artist, as a creator, you need to welcome those criticism. You need to enjoy them, because you just want to create something better, And I say that oftentimes that as a filmmaker, it's this burden that I carry that I'm never fully going to be I'm proud of my work, but I'm never fully going to be satisfied, And there's always things I will want to better. But that's the beauty of it. It's the beauty and the curse, because I'm always going to find something wrong with my work. But it's the beauty of it, because then I can carry that and try to make things better. And if I finish the project, because you have to get the project done, done is better than perfect, then I carry that onto the next project, and I keep trying to get better and keep trying to reach this perfection that I'll never reach. But in the process, I'll keep making better work. So, yeah.
Yeah. Any final thoughts, Weggon, before we officially close up?
No, I would say just believe in yourself. Believe in yourself and believe in what you want to do, and don't let anyone take you off that path.
Yeah.
Trust the process.
Yeah. I had such a valuable experience just hearing your guys' experience and hearing your guys' stories and advice. And thank you so much for being on the podcast. I really appreciate your time today. And
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for hosting this.
Thank you for engaging with us in this episode. To learn more about Digi60, visit us at digi60.org. Till next time, keep on emerging, and I'll see you on the other side of the wall.